You're listening to the Who is Christine Anyway podcast season 2. Today's special guest is author, educator, and generally really nice guy, Tom Guzzio. Enjoy.
Maybe that's what you need to watch the lunch menu for. Like, it's taco day? All right, let's talk about taco day.
Could be. Circle up, kids.
Tell me about your toppings. What are we feeling today?
That's right. What can we learn from our choice of heat when it comes to sauce?
Yeah, could you imagine? Just like hot wings edition. There you go. Like, you get the trivia wrong, you got to go take the taco. Like, pick a taco. One of these goes from fire. Some of them are mild, and then bathrooms across the hall. And nobody's gonna judge you.
Tap you up on the shoulder and get you next week. This one.
Does it kind of surprise you at times to see where some of your students have ended up? Because a lot of us, I won't say a lot of us, a large portion of us are now adults. I'm almost coming up on 20 years out of school. Ooh.
Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think if I were to graph and sort of categorize all my students from my past, they would probably represent a pretty accurate swath of America, probably mostly white America. Definitely up in Saranac Lake. Yeah, a lot of white folks up there. But yeah,
which I think is like a tragedy in its own right. Like, I can't even begin to describe the amount, and they don't have cultural studies. And it's one of those things where I'm like, so you can imagine I go to the music industry and I go out into other areas and I'm like, oh, wow, I really don't know anything about people. That was the biggest lesson I had to learn is everything you think you know everything, you know nothing.
No.
And you really don't know anything. And that was trial by fire, baptism by fire. And it's been incredibly humbling. And it's kind of one of those things. If you have, and I don't name names, obviously, unless you want to, is there a student who's absolutely gone? I mean, prison doesn't count. Has there been a student who ends up on somewhere where you had no idea, you didn't see it coming? Successfully. See, now prison's now eradicated. Pick one.
Well, I kind of surprised about Landoff and rapping. At this stage in his life,
I didn't have it on my bingo card, but there's I think he goes under Howley Woods, but he's done some pretty cool stuff. He's to watch him artistically develop and really express himself, bravo.
Yeah, and as somebody who is actively trying to get his art out there at 50 some odd, I can't really knock him for that. But no, I mean, I have a student who killed another student. That was kind of a surprise.
That was okay. The part of that sentence that confuses me is I said kind of a surprise.
No,
you were up there one day and said, "That's the one right there. I'm going to put $5 on it. I'm not going to get it off the bingo card, but I'm not going to put it in the middle."
It was very surprising. Yeah, but I mean, again, I don't have, I have these glimpses into the lives of students from social media, but it's not like, I'm hanging out with them on the regular.
No. And I mean, obviously there's some level of that.
I mean, I think my hope has always been that they would just grow into well-adjusted, contributing, critical thinking adults. They don't have to agree with my politics. I think it's pretty obvious. It's always been pretty obvious of where my sympathies lie politically, but I don't think you would ever remember me being like, what?
Wrong
You need
floor.
to think
That was
this way.
downstairs in the room we discussed before.
Yeah, I was never into trying to
You weren't the
indoctrinate
social
anybody or
studies
anything.
teacher. You were good. You didn't really push your agenda on anybody, but you were also
But
very open-minded.
well, that's the thing. I mean, to me, that's the key to. I mean, in my way, that was me being rebellious. It was me. It was me kind of indoctrinating through the back door, I guess, because if you are open-minded, you come to see that people who you thought were different from you really aren't that different from you.
And that's, honestly, I can totally see that. And that's so as somebody from the opposite perspective, as you call it like a backdoor indoctrination, which it's I wouldn't even call it backdoor. It really is perspective. And it really is this interesting concept too that you've kind of novelly kind of developed.
Well,
Because
it's just being decent. Like,
yeah,
really,
like I find that if I ask someone
decent.
why, like it doesn't seem so. I don't want to say shitty. If they go, well, I'm a really strong believer in this, I want to know why you believe that. And sometimes it makes sense for their narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Their narrative is not my narrative. That's one thing that was like, I missed it. I didn't get in your classes. Like every book has a different narrative, and that narrative does not have to be yours, and every person is its own book.
Right. I mean, that's a good way of saying it. I think one of the strangest things, and I'm going to get political for a second, only because I think this is an interesting example of just where we're at right now as a society, and how maybe we could use a little more understanding. I'm not really feeling accommodating because there's shit that's going down, but one of the things that I saw that I thought was just bonkers and yet really interesting at the same time, and it's kind of a joke that I've mentioned it to other people in passing, is one thing that Trump's gotten both sides of the political spectrum to do is to dead name Caitlyn Jenner, because the left hates her because she's a Trump supporter, and the right hates her because she's trans. So just for shits and giggles, I went on her Instagram page and I was just looking at the comments, and it was just
one end to the other.
I've always felt that Caitlyn was a dick, whether she had one or not. I've never didn't like her before, don't like her now. I think she's vapid. I think she's out of touch with reality, but not because she's trans, but because she just is. Like, you live your life behind, in front of a camera for as long as I mean, yeah, and I had really mixed feelings when everybody was like, oh, she's a hero, she's living her truth. And I was like, but she's a dick. She's an asshole. It doesn't matter what gender she is. She's not a nice person.
Right. Yeah, and that's the big thing is, so many humans, so little humanity.
But with that being said, like, I felt bad for her because, and I felt bad for the left a little bit because, I live in a world where I work really, really hard to get pronouns right. And I don't always do it well because, I have students that are femme presenting, but they use like they, them pronouns. And, I've been calling people that femme present, her or she for 53 years now. And, I always apologize after it happens, but like,
But the fact that you're trying and showing the level of respect, and you're not too big to apologize. You know what I mean? You're not too big to go, I apologize. This is how we're going to adjust this. But it's also, like you said, like you go into a comment section of something like that, which that is literally like chummed shark waters is what it is. And
I know it's social media, but it just strikes me as really, really odd.
It's a social experiment. It's a gigantic social experiment.
Yeah. It struck me as really, really odd that people who, and I get where it comes from, you know, it comes from a deep place of hurt, you know. This was the same day that he signed the executive order, you know, thinking that he could write science into, bend science into his will about there only being two genders. So, you know, I get that, you know, people are like, oh, I'm going to go lash out, but to me, it just said something really strange about where we're at. And not necessarily strange. It's a perfect snapshot of just how crazy things are at the moment. We've always been divided. I mean, our country was built on division.
But just now it seems like one extreme into the next, which it always has been. Just now it's more like highlight, you know, like kind of brighter. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of one of those things too, where I'm finding like myself, like I love, you know, I never thought, you probably never thought you this. Like I love observing. Like I love just watching, not people watching like in a park, like in a weird way, but like observing how things go, staying, you know, understanding my opinions are mine. They don't change, you know, whatever. And quality of a person is not affected by their political views. That's it. If you're a good person, you're a good person. Like you said, that's that. That's it. If you're not going to, you know, do anything dangerous, then you can believe whatever you believe. You know, it's the same thing. It's, you know, we go down the religion road, all that stuff. But it's one of those scenarios where watching people and observing people and watching how they react, you can also tell that they've stopped being teachable. A lot of them. It's like, listen, like we go back to the book analogy. That's just their book. Like, let them live. Like, that's their book. Like, is their book hurting you? Is it like, and we're going back into an era with literal banned books again. Like,
I know.
And I'm just over here watching The Handmaid's Tale, and it's so funny because my kids are like, what are you doing? I'm like, CNN costs too much on TV subscription. I'm just watching this. Same thing with, like, if you watch now, like, Netflix has moved Hitler documentaries to, like, #1 watches. And I'm, like, watching the Nuremberg trials, and I'm just going, now that teacher makes less sense. But now I'm, like, watching the Nuremberg trials, and I'm just, like, sitting there and I'm going, holy shit, we're going back to this or this or that or whatever. And that's the scary part is that like, we're going backwards in history. Not, you know, yes, everything's going on, but I've got a kid who's entering college right now.
Yep.
She thinks she knows everything right now. She's at that age. All teenagers are like that. I know everything. I don't need, what do you mean? I know exactly what I'm going to do and who I'm going to be and how I'm going to get. And it's like, okay. See you at the 10-year reunion. 20 years going to be even better. That's when they come back really depressed and half bald and sad. But it's kind of interesting to watch, like you said. And in those comment sections, you do feel for it. And I don't like calling myself a person of interest, but I'll go in and I'll make a comment. And I try to make my point known. Like, I'm a humanist. Like, it's just humans are humans. That's that. Yeah. Humans are humans. Animals are animals. You know, I leave my door open. I'm a complete ally. I think that it's not my business to decide what goes on in anybody's heart, mind, religion, pants, bedrooms, anything else. I just think that that's their position. And I love to hear their stories because sometimes that narrative fits their book. It's like, oh, okay. And it makes a really beautiful story in the end. And it's one of those things where it's like, did y'all flip out when Cinderella went from that, you know, raggedy dress into a prom dress and all the way out? No, then look at the show. Because that's essentially what's happening here, okay? Somebody came in, walla walla woo, they're in a different outfit. Are you dead? Like, it's one of those things. No, okay, cool. Now they're singing mice. Let's just celebrate the singing mice, okay? Like, we don't need to worry about anything else. Like, it's just one of those things, and it's interesting. Go ahead.
I've been wondering about those singing mice, and I think something needs to be done.
Well, please tell me you're not tall and an exterminator, because that's really how did you wrap that political still?
Oh,
I don't mind mice. I feel for them right now. We got so much snow. I'm just like, I'm so
I know.
sorry.
I know, the poor guys.
I just imagine the tunnels in the snowbank being so cool, like an ant farm. Like if I could just like dissect it, because you know they got to be getting around somehow out there.
So I just got this vision, as you said that, of like the end of The Shining, when the kid's running through the maze. You're trying not to die.
Same thing, only it's singing mice.
Yeah. Well, there'll probably be a Shining the musical, and if there's not, there should be.
Man, I wish my kids' school would do Shining the musical. I get stuck watching Annie and Matilda and all these other terrible things. I'm just like, have you ever seen me go, I just can't wait to get home and watch Annie? Like, never. It has never crossed my lips till just now. And then even then I go, and I'm that mom in the back where you just hear like the crinkling of the snack pet wrappers. I'm there to see my kid. I think it's great, but I'm like, my fucking God, 3 hours, really now? Like, maybe we just pick up the tempo, like just double up the beats, like woo, great, wonderful, dance a little faster. Look at my gym credit. Come on, let's just get it out of
Nice.
here.
Nice.
So it's interesting, but that's interesting. Adventuring through parenting, going through schools are just it's been its own thing that I guess I thought when I had my first kid, I was terrified because I'm like, I don't have a mother. How do I be a mother? Like I was so clueless. And I really, I got to give Abby credit because she's been such a champ at being like the guinea pig. And it was so funny because I was getting ready to go into the interview with you. And my last daughter's name, her middle name is Christine. And I'm like, used to go into Mr. Guzzio's class and he was going to have his daughter name her Christine. Her name's Christine. And Brent's like, what is her name? And I'm like, still can't remember. So I just call her Christine. And he's like, that's not nice. And I'm like, it works. And I'm like, someday I'm going to be like a New York Times bestselling author. And I'm going to be like, bet you wish you'd kept her name Christine now. Someday.
Little Christine is 21 now.
Oh, no, she's not. No.
Yes, she is.
No.
And that means we're both old.
That's such a nervous laugh.
I know. It's okay.
I can't believe she's 21.
I know.
So thinking back to me in high school, because I actually described myself as I was explaining myself with Christina, my best friend in high school. I'm like, she had long red hair and I had short black spiky hair, little faux hawk. Oh, I'm like, we kind of looked like Tattoo, the band Tattoo, the two girls that sang that song.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
How else would you describe it? Like, how else would you describe me in high school? Let's go down that road. You literally have free reign to just say whatever you want.
Wow.
I can tell I was not in any musicals. So.
I mean, you had a great sense of humor. You talk to adults as if they were adults, as if you were an adult, which is probably why a lot of teachers felt uncomfortable around you.
They felt uncomfortable around me?
Well, I mean...
I'm just picturing everybody in the lounge slam the door and going, I just had our third period.
I mean, that may have happened. I don't recall anything. Like, honestly, like my memories of the teachers' lounge at Saranac Lake High School are kind of fuzzy. But no,
they put it in the water.
It could be. No, I mean, I think it was clear that you were in a place that you felt like you didn't belong. You didn't dress the part like everyone else. And it's not like you weren't the only kid that was that way. But you were one of those kids who just, high school wasn't built for you. And it wasn't through any fault of your own. It didn't mean you weren't intelligent or anything like that, obviously. It was just, I I don't know, like the timing was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And Saranac Lake, of all the places that I've worked, is a place, because it's a small town, smallest town I've ever, had the pleasure to experience. All of that is amplified. Like if you stand out in Saranac Lake, you stand out, period. So yeah, that was you. I mean, I think you look the way you look as a shield. You used your looks as a shield because it was easier than playing the game. And I think if you were interested in playing the game, you probably knew you would have failed. So why would you bother? Because there's, definitely a type there. It's weird. Like in Saranac Lake, you can I always had the impression that like if you could trace your lineage back to the 1980 Winter Olympics, then you belonged.
Keep listening for the next part of this episode with Tom Guzzio. Visit www.whoischristineanyway.com for access to all the social media links and additional podcast episodes.